Hello everyone and welcome to my first Mashup review of 2019. So if you are new to this channel and you're like, what is a Mashup review? I am here to tell you. So basically what Mashup reviews, at least on my channel, are where I take usually 3, sometimes 4, but mostly 3 books that are sometimes within the same genre, or sometimes they are literally just a mashup of a whole bunch of different genres. That way it's just easier for you guys to watch 3 reviews in one video, and if you want to skip over one review, you definitely can. I keep these all pretty much spoiled. Pretty much tell you what they are about, what I liked or didn't like about them, and what I rated them. So today is literally a hodgepodge of genres. Usually I try to keep it within the same genres because that's just how I like to do it. But this year I've decided that it doesn't matter the genre. I just really want to focus on reviewing a lot of books I read, because sometimes when I look back on my reviews, I didn't review all the books I wanted to in a year. So this year I'm really going to focus on trying to review the majority of books that I read. Let's say I read 100 books this year. I really want to at least review 95 of them. That's how much I want to review this year, because it's just better. I think it's just good to look back and see my thoughts on certain books, and it's easier for you guys to figure out what I feel about them. So today, sorry for the long intro, I will leave all the time cards down below for each individual book in case you want to hear my thoughts about one particular one. But today I have 2 YA contemporaries and 1 YA fantasy. So the books I'll be talking about today are Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills, which is a YA contemporary, Our Year of Maybe by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is also a YA contemporary, and Slayer by Kirsten White, which is a YA fantasy. So if you want to hear my thoughts about these, please continue to watch, and if you want to hear about one book in particular, check out the timestamps down below. And these are actually the first 3 books I read ever this year, so it's really cool to document as well. So the first book I want to talk about is Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. This is my 3rd Emma Mills book I have ever read, and I really enjoy her writing. This is basically about a girl named Sophie, and Sophie lives in this very small town where pretty much everybody knows everybody, and it's a small town. She has amazing best friends that she really likes, and she is going on to her senior year of high school, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do for college. And then a guy moves in next door, and it kind of shakes up her world. Also in this, we have like a famous country star that has come out of their town for a while ago. So everybody's kind of obsessed with this famous country star because that's like the only like famous person from their small town. So with Emma Mills books, I've noticed there's not a ton of plot. It's mostly a lot of character development. So I'd say if you like want a really intense contemporary where a lot happens, these aren't the books for you. But if you just like those slow burn type of romances and slow burn type of character development, I would recommend her books. They're like kind of a cotton candy warm hug type of book, if I could describe it as that. I enjoyed this one. I don't yet know which Emma Mills book is my favorite, but I did really enjoy this one. I love Sophie and her character development. She was just a very nice girl, and she wanted to do a lot for her marching band. She wanted to do a lot for her family. She wanted to do a lot for her friends. The one thing I didn't love about this book is that, speaking of her family, you don't get to see much of her family at all. Like, her parents are really good. She talks about her parents a lot, but you don't get to see any interaction with her parents. She's really close with her sister as well, which there's kind of a shocker at the end with family too in her, which I did enjoy that. I didn't see it coming, but we didn't get a lot of family in this book as I wanted to. We got the really good best friend support system where she has a really good set of friends, and we got to delve into that more. Also, the romance is really good in this as well. I just like her books. I'd say if you're just a big YA contemporary fan, you need to read her books because they're just adorable, honestly. Like, YA contemporary is just one of my guilty pleasures, honestly. So I did enjoy this one, and I would give it a 4 out of 5. One of the better contemporaries I've read. Next up, I want to talk about Our Year of Maybe by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Rachel Lynn Solomon wrote You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone, which was released last year. It was her debut novel, and I loved and adored it. It was very well written. I couldn't believe it was a debut novel, and it was just sad. And this book is also equally sad. She's got a talent for writing sad books. So in case you're like, fluffy contemporary is not my jam, maybe the intense, maybe the sad type of contemporaries are your jam, this is one for you. This is about another, oh wow, I didn't even notice that. This is also about a girl named Sophie. So both these books follow a character named Sophie. Interesting. And Sophie is in love with her best friend Peter. She has been in love with him for a long time. They've known each other since they were little. They live right across the street from each other, and they're just connected for life. They're best friends. These past 3 years or so, Sophie has noticed herself falling in love with Peter, and this book is about her having those feelings, but Peter is also suffering from a chronic illness that affects his kidneys and things like that. So actually Sophie is a match for him, so she decides to donate one of her kidneys to Peter. So she's thinking maybe if she donates her kidney that he will finally see her for who she is and love her just as much as she loves him. And that's not the main reason why Sophie does it, is for him to like notice her, but she also loves him as a best friend too. Like she would do anything for him. He is just her world. And so basically this transplant happens and it makes Peter's life change because he can actually do things now that he couldn't do before he had the kidney. And he can go to school with Sophie and he can go outside and like do normal things. And so the world that used to be just Peter and Sophie is kind of burst. The bubble is burst, so to say. And Peter is out experiencing life and meeting new friends and meeting a guy that he really likes, while Sophie's just kind of left there with her feelings for Peter. And what Sophie does is she is a dancer, so she gets really involved with her dance team. She's also kind of close to her family. Her sister is actually younger than her and has a baby, and she's growing closer to her sister and her niece. And this book is just about Peter and Sophie and their feelings. We follow both of their point of views, and I don't think I like this one as much as her debut novel, but it was really good. Like I flew through it. I was invested in the storyline. It did make me angry, I'm not gonna lie to you, because the characters were so realistic, but they kept making really bad decisions, like to the point where I like wanted to reach to the pages and shake them and be like, are you really doing this? Like think about your actions here. Think about the consequences. Like think about this overall, but then you're like, they're just teenagers. But the main qualm I had with this book was just, I don't feel like the character development was like 100% there. For Sophie, I feel like she really made a big stride in her character development. She realized her feelings and she really poured herself out there several times to Peter, and Peter didn't know what to do with it, and he kind of was not the best. He wasn't a jerk, but he did not respond well or do the right things, and it made me really like, I loved Peter because he was a good person overall, but when it came to the relationship of Sophie and Peter, he was not good. He was just a horrible friend, honestly, sometimes. So I did like this book. It's definitely a book that's gonna make you think. It's gonna be a book that makes you sad and makes you really think about life, love, family, friendship, and just a lot of different things. I also like how Rachel and Solomon writes her books with Jewish characters. I don't read a lot of books where we have a Jewish main character, and both of her books have really made me learn about the Jewish culture and what it means for each individual person. So I really enjoy that as well, because both of Sophie's and Peter's families are Jewish, and I really enjoyed reading that. So overall, I would also give this one a 4 out of 5. I did like her debut novel a little bit more, but I still would recommend this book. Like, it's a book that I think you're gonna fall in love with and that is gonna make you sad, really. And I would love to hear your thoughts about the whole Sophie and Peter thing. Like, did you agree with both of them, one of them? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. The last book I want to talk about is Slayer by Kirsten White. So this was one of my most anticipated reads of this year. I want to say in my top 5, because this book is told in Buffyverse, which is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I've said time and time again, was my first ever love. Like, before Harry Potter, there was Buffy. I watched as much as I could, and I continued to watch it when I was on air. I collected all the DVDs. I collected all the Watchers guides. I even wrote like fan fiction, not like on fanfiction.net back in the day that didn't even exist. I wrote it like in notebooks. Like, me and my friend would write fan fiction and exchange them and things like that. To say I was obsessed with Buffy would be a vast understatement. So I was very much looking forward to a book set in the Buffy world. And before I tell you my thoughts about this, I'll tell you what it's about. This is basically about a girl named Nina, and Nina is in like this Watchers Academy, and she has a twin sister named Artemis, and they've grown up in the Watchers Academy their whole life. And long story short, Nina realizes that she is a Slayer, and more particularly, she is going to be the last Slayer ever. So it's basically about her journey realizing that she's a Slayer, and her, you know, having a lot of feelings about being the Slayer and the last Slayer at that. So yeah, that's what it's about. It's set in the Buffy world, but it doesn't follow Buffy or any of the main characters from the show, but you get to see snippets of them, like either through dream sequences or just people talking about them, about what happened in the past and things like that. Faith even makes an appearance in this book, which I was like, she even said her classic line 5x5. But I didn't love this book, sadly. I had really high expectations for this book, probably too high, honestly, but I cherish Buffy so much and that's why I think my expectations are so high. I did not really like this book, honestly. I appreciated a lot of different things about it, though, I will tell you that. One thing I did like about it was the humor. It really captured the Buffy humor. It's got that classic Buffy satire with, you know, I mean, when you think about it and you go back and rewatch Buffy, like the most well-produced show, that's for sure, but Buffy at its heart is just freaking adorable. The humor was great in Buffy. I think that was one of its strong suits, honestly, was the humor. So you get that little quick one-liners, you know, in this book, and I did appreciate for the humor. I also appreciated a lot of history in this book about Buffy. One thing I didn't like about it was they hated Buffy in this book. Like, these people that were at the Watchers Academy blamed Buffy for, like, everything. Like, they kept talking about Buffy like it was a freaking swear word almost. Like, she shall not be named. And I don't know why. Spoiler warnings, if you haven't seen Buffy, probably like the last season. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm just gonna say it. So in the last season of Buffy, season 7, it ended with Buffy, or Willow, I should say, like doing this spell. It's been a long time since I watched the show, so please forgive me. I know I'm due for a rewatch. And she pretty much activated any potential Slayer to be a full-fledged Slayer so they could like finally close the portal of the Hellmouth, like, because the first had come back up, and basically all these potential Slayers were activated, and that also kind of broke magic. So after that, magic was broken. Like, there's no like magic at all. Like, I don't know if that happened in the show, but I know that the Slayer portion was accurate, but I don't know if like they broke magic. I don't know. Also, I should say this also, I think, follows some of the graphic novels, because Buffy continued on after the show ended, but with graphic novels. I know there's a ton of graphic novels. They even call themselves seasons, like season 8, season 9. I don't know how many seasons it is up to. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read the graphic novels just because I'm not a big graphic novel person, but so I don't know as far as if this book kept on the same track as the graphic novels, but basically in this book, Buffy broke magic and they hate Buffy. So I couldn't jive well with that because I love Buffy, and the thought of somebody hating Buffy, I was like, no. So that's one thing I didn't love about it. Another thing was the plot. Like, I like the plot of Nina becoming a Slayer and becoming the last Slayer ever, but nothing really happens. She discovers that she's a Slayer, and there's like this threat lurking in Dublin, Ireland, and they discover it. And we go to this one event, and then I don't know, like, I think Kirsten White was trying too much to be like the show, but it wasn't like the show at all, if I'm honest with you. So I think I liked this book. I didn't love it. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm comparing it too much to the show and too much to certain characters and things like that. That could be a problem of my own, honestly. Will I continue reading the series? Probably, because it's set in Buffy World, and I love Buffy World so much that I will probably read anything that's set in that. I mean, I used to read books that were written by authors, and it was just Buffy books. I'll leave a picture of them here, the ones that I've read. I read a lot of them. That's before I even discovered YA fiction. I just read strictly Buffy fiction. Like my collection was vast, guys. Like, I would go to B. Dalton and just buy them all. I would give this book a rating. I would give it a 3 out of 5. I would say if you're a big Buffy fan, definitely check this out. You'll appreciate the history of it. You'll appreciate the Watchers, the demonology, and things like that. But if you are just interested in Buffy and think that maybe this book will make you want to watch the show, I would not recommend that. I would just recommend watching the show and seeing if you love the show. Then read the book, maybe. But I don't know. I think I just had too high of hopes, and I put this on a pedestal a little bit too much, and I just didn't love it. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. I'd say it's like middle of the road for me, but I will read the rest of the series because it's Buffy, and Buffy is my heart. So that was my thoughts on these 3 books right here. If you have read any of them, like I said, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, so please leave me a comment and let's talk about all of these together, because that is what this whole channel is about, is talking about books. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.